But thank you for that. And I'm gonna read a few things. I'm gonna read from this book, Prairie Style, and I'm gonna read just a little bit of prose from a book of essays called Back Burner, which I guess is going to be published next year. And then I'll read some new poems, or newer poems. But I'll start off with Prairie Style. Quick question: is C.J. Martin here? Apparently not. Okay. I'm going to read the first section of the book, which is called Nameless. I had done, as Maida suggested, I did kind of a lot with the my name being the same name as a bunch of geographic stuff in Canada, and so I have to follow that with a section of a bunch of poems called Nameless. These are Prairie Style. It's about the prairie. It's about Illinois, and I'll read you the first section. What should I tell you? It makes reference to Prairie du Chien. Forgive my French. Which I'm sure all of you know is the city on the Mississippi River in Wisconsin. It makes reference to Little Egypt, which, as I'm sure many of you know, is that region of Illinois south of 70. That's what the region's called, south of 70. Now it's called south of 70. It used to be called Little Egypt. It resembled, in someone's imagination, Egypt. Cairo is the big city down there at the foot of the Mississippi. It's the place that Jim and Huck missed in the fog. It's where the Ohio River meets the Mississippi. It makes reference to the Robert Taylor homes, the mile-long, very horizontal housing project in Chicago that is now no longer inhabited. I'm sure there's someone living there, but not legally anymore. Downstate. To have the same sound, to be called by the same name. Location is what you come to. It's the low point it usually repeats. To me, any value is a location to be reckoned with. I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge how an event could be talked about like it was you or me being talked about. Or locations, the reply, the obvious statement about origin. It goes without saying that pleasure's formidable. Vernacular examples. You can always say what you are. Half the time the allegory is music. How song goes with its cornets and saxophones. Do you have something to say to me? Closure regathers the shape of the original undoing, the place where memory changed or picked up. Or it's human looking, big boned, about as noisy, parts missing or left out, parts overstated. A loud brother to the divine, an admonishment. I was two men. I was something. I was something monstrous. Jokes just drain the spirit. Interstate 70, between Dayton and East St. Louis, westbound lanes. I would essay. I'd go toe to toe. Property's a measure of elimination. Down to the left, Little Egypt. Way off to the right, Prairie du Chien and the Robert Taylor homes of recent memory. You can work for someone. You can be lazy in the face of accident hovering in the wings. Anyone can measure the advent of minor harmonies and melancholy. An arch at Ohio, Indiana. Another, similar, more formidable, at the Mississippi. Eaton, Richmond, big Indianapolis. Beautiful sounding Terre Haute. Don't forget Effingham. Can't forget Effingham. Crimea River. Generally, value exists in relation to opportunities for exchange, seeing something in terms of something else. But for the sake of argument, say the shape of a region or of some distinct area of a city could stand in for memory, and that it, the shape, is a specific value because it's apparent and public, and that way achieves an almost nameless contour. Palaver. Neighborhood? Proximities change on you sooner or later. There's a level of artlessness. My luck has changed more than one time. Love could be an embankment, even an esker, or customs, or a sailing ship noisy at the horizon. The idea was that the wind could carry your voice from here to there, from one side of the field to the other. I was always leaving a place at the point where I'd begun to care for it. This was the gain of singing. The devil's hungry in a song. The devil is sweet. How do I look? Neighborhood's a little fishtail in the substances. Okay. Some poems from the interior of the book. Okay. All right. Day song. Nothing to the sky but its blank, endless chaos. Old blue skies. Nothing to it when it meets the eye. To me, half a belief's better by far, or one broken into halves. Trim paragraphs of uninflected speech hung over the prairie sound's origin. Eros came up out of its den in the embankment, came out tawny, came out swarthy, came out more dusky than sienna. The sky was a glass of water. White men say cock, but black men say dick. One gets even in the Midwest. One gets even in the Midwest. One gets even in the Midwest. Eros was a common barnyard pest, now coming to be seen in suburban settings as well. A song with lyrics clarified and refined both. The day lengthened like they do, but everything was over by nightfall. To me, it's foxes most days. A train at night. And this one contains a reference to a beverage. Let's see if you can recognize it. Hearing, as I will, the train cross town and the silences blew it, Hearing, as I will, the train cross town and the silence as well between the grade crossings, except for when on especially clear nights the diesels signify themselves. Evil is all silent. Rail around here is continuously welded. The air this far in, dry. Linda Ronstadt was singing Love is Like a Heat Wave on the oldies station. The closed set of transitions. What's your body like? What's your body in the set of places? Sometimes I stare in space, tears all over my face. Continuous, no break, into the next section, or on into a next piece. At first I'd thought being visible and silent was a context on its own. A specific enough remoteness known by position, known as denial. Getting even. Evil is all silent and so on, but it has got its gods. Liken it, the noise, to love itself. Yet despite the specificity, how I speak of the train and it about me. All train references are fairly similar and overlap with music and engage the same restless stuff music would. Oh, I hear the sound of a machine working like a man, working like a gang of men, an inflection over on the west side, push crossing over shove. This is dry as a bone. Fortify me, night train. What's the beverage? Night train. Okay, since you did so well with that, let me ask you another one. Okay. Oh, who here is old? Nobody. You are. Okay, let's see how old you are. You old people. What's the word?
Thunderbird. What's the price? 40 twice.
Yes. Okay, what's the reaction? What's the reaction? Satisfaction. Good. Thank you. I learned it as 30 twice. See, you must be younger than me. the price went up.
Right, inflation.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. 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 Prairie Style. There's a lot of poems in this book called Prairie Style. Prairie Style. A sexual image about the prairie ought to be a good idea. It would have no meaning in a larger context, and its existence, furiously local, might make outline itself a high level of vernacular. The image might be the sum of dire and hopeless songs, more of an after-image, really. Love might be, in general, a revelation, but sex could have a shape or a figure with which one could remember it. The speaker could recognize it or could himself cause recognition to occur. Love might be terror. The hesitation passed town, but sex could be content and outline both, until the watcher or the listener turns away. Male, female, black men say trim. An outline's sameness is finally a reference. Towns at a distance are that. How they appear at first, a dim cluster, and then from 5 or 6 miles off, how they look when you're only 3 miles away. In between sightings is the prairie itself to get across. Track, trace, the trick of landscape. Love suffers its wishfulness. It's an allegorical value, and the speaker mimes allegory with descriptions of yearning, like the prairie is a joke on us, among us. Inland is a name, a factory, something to say. The thing upon which the image verges, the thing push articulates. Okay. I'm going to read something I don't usually read. Voodoo Dick. Voodoo Dick. Jokes being the metaphor for someone talking, for voice or voices, for produced yet endless authority. Pity the poor jokes digging out their simple tiger pits. Pity the gap of metaphor. Voodoo Dick, my pussy, she says. The left-alone wife says in the joke. The vernacular maintaining itself, voodoo being erotic certainty here, yawning that. A big black vibrator. Easy to read, difficult in the joke to turn off. A joke comes tumbling out before the speech, an introduction, a formalized economy as opposed to slang and lazy talk, lazy belief. A joke is full of speed and pauses to mimic. A joke at the end, a flawless speech. Dick, pussy, voodoo. The terms represent the tale. Voodoo Dick, my pussy. Voodoo Dick's the same in structure as the more famous Crunchbird joke. The gift story the same bends, the voice clanging out the end line, the showstopper. Consequence is implicit. No speakers to warm you to them in either one. Crunchbird is the older joke, says the smart money. Oh. And a couple more poems from this book. The section about Indianapolis, called A Coronet at Night, that makes reference. You old people, are you familiar with Junior Walker? The work of Junior Walker and the little bit, and the All Stars. Yes, yeah, right. And the poem gestures toward Junior Walker and the All Stars. It's a great saxophone. He'd play the saxophone, then he'd sing, and then he'd play the sax some more. Then a cornet, and it also makes reference to Frank Lloyd Wright's term from him, Usonian. It's Usonian architecture. It's part of his prairie style houses for servantless families in America. The Usonian house. A cornet at night. I'm the fish horn. I'm going to lean out and blow for you. Say I'm a fact of nature, a habit of life, the broad ripple. Say I'm a Usonian. Say I'm from out past the turnaround, but have come in like a pack of dogs to reveal Eros to you, to converse with you about the repeating shape. Say I'm teeth and crows. Say I'm voodoo dick. Say I cleave to you, or say I'm a vacant seat pulling away from the curb. Say I'm incomplete without you, sugar. Say I'm late, but say how I'll come sooner or later. Say I'm doubtless. Say I'm lazy but articulate. And last poem in the book, another poem called Prairie Style. The prairie appeared suddenly like it was a miracle or a fortification. Trace to predicament. The trees gave way. No surprise, but it was further than we'd imagined. Servantless, shoreless, nothing to it when it met the horizon. And
Take your time, Cecil.
you'll be here all night. Wait a minute.
Having fun.
Oh, okay. I'll read a journal called Cross-Cultural Poetics, XCP, had asked me to write something about poetics, and I'll read you a bit from that essay, and then read some new poems. This is called Rule Signs, notes on transit. Of recent importance to me, Juliana Sparr's idea of joining, this as it would relate to joinery rather than the way one might agree to accompany an already existing gang and number oneself among them. Kamal Brathwaite's Tidalectics, and Fiona Templeton's work with cities, she's a playwright, and that at Naropa this past summer, we worked up interruption as the literary figure for a kind of performance that gets messy, for a trope for acting out in the vernacular, for being difficult, for becoming difficulty itself. I worked with an amazing group of women and men who named themselves the performance troupe, the Grammar Sluts. These things, among others. But my recourse is again to the spectacle of travel, to, more exactly and widely, the traveling public, the surge beyond the self. I can't get around the cultural without recourse to the physical, what the surround is, how one moves through it, how one might be flush up against it or ignorant of it. One what? Travel is some migration in the world. Never seen a man travel more, seen more lands than this poor, pathless, harborless spade, said Brathwaite in The Arrivants. Travel is a stain. It spreads. You, the city. You, the stain. Fiona Templeton. The word you is the pronoun of recognition, of reply, of accusation, of balance, beyond the visual, animate, returnable. You assumes and creates relationship. It's the predictable reach of travel that continues to interest me and I continue to see as a place of exchange. Within that predictable is the unfamiliar or the defamiliarizing moment or potential. Proximity provides that. Traveling in public on surface transportation is the situation I come to again and again for a poetic that crosses over, for that surge. The moment of going for everyone, including people without means, The travel's pretty ordinary, getting from A to B and back, but it gets interesting when you mix in the presence of others. There's something The travel's pretty ordinary, getting from A to B and back, but it gets interesting when you mix in the presence of others there to do something ordinary with you, in spite of you, alongside you. A stranger in blood with whom to share a seat, even if he or she doesn't appear until you vacate the conveyance. Negotiations, abandon on the bus. The geography of seating itself, the density of the standees among one's fellow travelers, and, perhaps most disconcerting, everybody's similarity. All the stalks are the same. Banal transit, in transit, transitory, transitional, the transit mulatta blog, the several roads that make up the Trans-Canada Highway, MARTA for the Metropolitan Atlanta Rapid Transit Authority, but folks say it means moving Africans rapidly through Atlanta. The crypto-racial of bus and light rail, where we're going and with whom, the erotically charged space of the omnibus, mundane travel, rapid transit, my current new relation to the Bay Area Rapid Transit, its stations, their mix of outside and inside, city transit. I grew up in a black and white town, Dayton, Ohio, with a very fine citywide system of electric buses that is still largely in place 40 years after I left home. The west side is still black Dayton, and the west side buses are number 9, Cincinnati Street, number 8, Lakeview Nicholas Road, number 4, Delphus, number 2, Home Avenue, number 1, Drexel. But these are crosstown buses. The roll signs, that's the route number and street, announce the destinations, directions, and the roll signs are changeable. The driver cranks them, and this was and has been the vision. The driver standing up inside the bus, reaching up to turn the handle above the big windshield, changing the destination, going through 2 or 3 or several possibilities. Nowadays, roll signs are electric, a display of lights that spells it out. Before, they were linen, replaced by treated paper, replaced by the DuPont product, Tyvek. The opposite is present. The black number 9 Cincinnati Street bus becomes the number 9 Valley Street bus bound for the Polish neighborhood on the northeast side of Dayton. The number 1 bus, Drexel, turned around and became the number 1 3rd Street bus out to the white areas near the Air Force Base, out to where East 3rd Street becomes Airway Road. Same bus and driver, different colors of folks in the seats, and the bus bearing the name of the different neighborhood like a flag through the streets of this one. This is the relationship, the indication of you. I'd hate to stop with the idea of place being dichotomy. It's a way to begin to talk of the cross-cultural, not a note to end it on. The bus is not some transparency. The roll signs are racial, ethnic, class heavy. The bus is, for now, how I say. The bus, like a fox, goes without saying. Interruption still talks up to power. And some new poems. Series called Early Evening. Title's taken from Langston Hughes' Early Evening Quarrel, and it's from Shakespeare in Harlem. And my idea is that the early evening could be both. It's a kind of argument. It was an early evening argument, you know the kind, and also a kind of geography, a place in the structure of the day, early evening. And these are Pennsylvania poems. It's about my years at Penn State. Early evening. 1. Redtail eating a fat squirrel in one of the elm trees. I'd meditated already, had a hedge on the night, but owned nothing past that. Surrounded by crows and 3 of the other elms, who had come suddenly out of nowhere, shouting caw as he picked that boy to bits, the most common hawk in North America. Early evening at Penn State. Still light, and no leaves yet, or that already fallen off. Late autumn then, or early spring, 2000-something, probably 2003. Off the hip of Old Main, 10 or 15 crows. One is a gun, Charlie Brown. After all, one is a gun, a single composition of many parts. Shadows lengthen Charlie Brown. 2. Where was I? Numbered? I remember what happened to me. Address could be bright and vivid, or it could just be to whom it may concern, or the nickname for a whispering demon, orders in his hand, Charlie Brown. How do I know? We hit the pothole on the ramp. One if by land. Draw ahead, Charlie Brown, full of fever. Push comes in parts. No place to change. Swallows? Swifts. 2 is a shoe, meaning we'll play both sides of the net, as it were. Each has its neighbors, its love rooms. Knowledge seems easy, but who am I to say? Swallows and swifts, Charlie Brown. Swallows and swifts. I'm who I say. I'm in town, and the night's young. I'm at your service, Charlie Brown. 3. Nothing, no evidence held back. Our work was done, and I crossed the bridges home. Hell's part of heaven, in my book. Treed, multiplied, rife with example. 3 is a tree. Less peculiar than some folks. I paced white drivers in their cars. It has seemed to me at various times that you don't just happen across a creek in the country, but that you need to be looking for it, seeking water deliberately. In town it was different, but that goes without saying. Down on the coast, I was different, or I had been. I have been thinking recently of southwest Ohio creeks. The countryside has seemed to shrink and then expand in size, as I remember it. 4. Went downtown to see the new King Kong. Lost track of time, but I kept walking. Landmarks fell into order, and I held my pace among them. Where do you go to think about anything? Another 10 or 15 minutes. What was Ithaca to me? Long descents. Parking lots follow the contour of the hills. The lake is fjord-like. Or colored Ithaca along Fall Creek. It forms the boundary. Colored Ithaca on both sides of 6 Mile Creek. Coffeetown is burning down. Where you been, Charlie Brown? Skull Island. I'll go on ahead, I thought, and buy the tickets early. 4 is a door. Open dungeon. Or the red door to come to. Or the way to exit the movie house, if necessary, clearly marked below the screen. Or a big one to keep something big on its own side. I remember captaining, some kinds of darkness, navigation itself, etc. 5. Or hell's in this one particular part of heaven. Once you know that, you are, as it were, in the car. The one main street branches typical of some towns like a hand, but 5 is a hive, baby. A buzz, be loud, tingling. Where was I? Downtown. Now you see it, and then you're there. In spades, a measure. There was a sliver of cigarette smoke in the air. Where was I, Charlie Brown? I've been to the rural branch campuses of Penn State, small and for the greatest part devoid of black students. The main campus at University Park was beautiful, with its walks shaded by elm trees, the tops of which are lit and merge in early evening with the roofs of the old stone buildings to make a single skyline, a consummation, or the skylines mixed. It was dusk. I was going to make a loop or square around College Avenue. I'd circle Old Botany and arrive at my lodging from a different direction. Downtown was a joke. 6, beginning with an epigraph from Henry Shoemaker's History of Central Pennsylvania. A Negro lad, black as ebony, ran forward from behind some tall rhododendrons, carrying a smoking horse pistol. Round trip from Center County to Ithaca, 3 hours each way. If you want to start a fight in Tioga counties, say there are no more lions in the valleys or on mountaintops, said someone upon my arrival at Penn State. Biggest battle, Charlie Brown. You don't have to go far off campus, I was warned. Center County's mid-state, but it gets bad in the northern tier, Charlie Brown, and people there say Potter County is God's country. Stopped June 2010 at English Center in Lycoming County. Stopped June 2010 at English Center in Lycoming County for a general repair. Another low haunt, and water was in the air, though it wasn't raining. There's a place for every need, brothers, black as that might be. Hic sunt Leonis. Maps pulled off the internet or got from generous women at AAA all show the Allegheny Range traversed by US 15. One follows the base of Bald Eagle Mountain all the way down to Penn State. 2 crows, 3 crows down in the valley where the green grass grows. Pull off, brothers. Endless mountains, inevitable Poconos, ridge and valley Appalachians. Prevalent story at English Center where there's a plaque that Dr. Reinwald in 1840 was eaten by an ML while on a mission of mercy, but the other arguments that he died of exposure, lost in the snow, died of common mistakes, after which wolves, panthers, and hawks picked at his carcass, not knowing enough to respect a human corpse, Henry Shoemaker said. But that was the very worst. Hit it with a stick, Charlie Brown. Go downtown. Take it to the river. Across Route 6 is paradise. Hit it with sticks. June 2010. Stopped at the Truck Plaza, McElhattan, Clinton County. Meditated there. That's it. Thank you so much.